Hi to both of you. Thanks for doing this.
Hi.
Thank you.
I guess I'll just randomly start with you, Tegan and Sarah,
Sure.
whoever wants
Love
to
it.
answer this. Um, Television is a very collaborative medium, and you're used to sort of controlling the story with the book, and when you give interviews, when you get into TV, it's a little trickier. And how did the both of you protect yourself so that suddenly this didn't end up being some crazy thing that didn't reflect your vision?
Well, I mean, it started with choosing somebody we love and we're friends with. Clea read an early version, a book, the book before it was published, and she came to us and said, like, let me be your partner in this. Don't just sell your story. So I think like we knew Clea was going to always be open to our thoughts and would be compassionate and respectful to the story. But it's hard. It was really challenging at times. We really encouraged her to fictionalize things, but then you see it fictionalized and then it feels all wrong. And you're like, oh my God, my mom's going to hate that depiction of herself. So, there was a lot of collaboration and a lot of dialogue throughout the process. And oftentimes, we just needed to be heard and that felt good. And, there's always your truth and then everybody else's truth. And I also just think like people can read the book or they can watch the show, but it's never going to be 100% exactly how it was. And hopefully people just understand that it's entertainment and that's how I approached my collaboration, was like not to overthink it too much.
Sarah, going into this, were there some things where you thought to yourself, this has to be in the show, or we can't have it be this way? Some red lines of no, either way, this can't happen.
I mean, I think just the most important thing for me is that sort of central story between Tegan and Sara remain as close as possible to our history, and partly that's just because we are public figures and we are a band, and maintaining our origin story both as siblings and as artists is really important to me. So I think it wasn't one very, very specific thing, but I think that's always going to be the most important story for me in maintaining as much honesty and truth as possible.
I've interviewed people who are sort of, for lack of a better description, brand names. It's like people know, have this vision of them, and they think they know who they are, and it's very set in their minds. And is that a challenge for either one of you? Because obviously your fans have this image of you, and you've shared so much about your lives. Are there moments where you just want to say, no, 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 just back away? This is not me, or I'm not comfortable with this.
I mean, I think we've done
definitely
an
don't want
excellent
to
job
ever
of
feel
creating
like
intimacy, but then also like since the beginning of our career, I think we've curated, not just exposed ourselves, if that makes sense. Like it wasn't just a free for all. There's always been some boundaries and rules around what we will share and what we won't share. And I think with social media, we got good at that too, where it's like you can still feel like you're getting to know us and you can still see parts of our lives, but a big part of our life is kept secret. And so even writing a memoir, it's like there was so much of our story we didn't share. There's so much detail we changed or omitted. And I think with the show, it's the same. And I think how I approach our public persona is just like, I want you to see yourself in us. I want you to relate to us. I want you to enjoy what we make and find connection. But like, ultimately, I know like that there's so much of me you don't know, that I don't feel discomfort. Like, I don't feel like people don't get me. I feel like if they don't get me, it's because I've kept enough of myself secret. So I feel like it's a win.
I also think, I mean, you bring up an interesting point though about the branding, because one of the things that in naming ourselves Tegan and Sara, like our band Tegan and Sara, we essentially created a brand out of our names and our identity. And it's been harder for us as a band, I think, to disappear into the enigma of, a band profile. We are essentially always kind of representing ourselves as individuals. And, the risk, of course, in making a TV show is that somehow that brand can be, can be hurt somehow, or be canceled, or be damaged in some way because of, whatever factor. So, there's a lot of vigilance on our part with the team, who have all been really, really open to our involvement. But, we didn't just sign away the rights and like walk away. Like, this is our livelihood and it's our legacy. And as long as the characters are Tegan and Sara, it's like I think we have a responsibility to our legacy and our name, to make sure that everything feels right on screen.
But and along those lines, I know maybe Tegan, you can start it, and then Sara, you can jump in too. The fact that you're working together so much, you're telling your stories, telling each other's stories, no matter how comfortable you are with that, there's a tension there. And how do you sort of set those boundaries of being able to say, look, we don't want to be the Fogarty brothers who hate each other when they die. We want to be able to walk away from this and still stay friendly with each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's a delicate dance, and it's always been a delicate dance. There's times where you don't get along. There's definitely friction and tension, and we collaborate on so many projects, and there's so much business and a whole universe that surrounds that. And I think ultimately we do have to constantly remind ourselves that most important is the relationship we have to each other as siblings and family. And we have this amazing catalog of music and experiences we share. And, but we also make room for the conflict, and that was kind of the coolest thing about making the show for me, was seeing Season and Rayleigh every day. I got to witness them be very close and collaborative, but then also have conflict. And it was really reassuring to me that, it's normal. Like, I think sometimes we don't normalize conflict, especially between women. It's like a weird thing. And throughout our career, Sara and I have worked really hard to normalize it. Like, we make hundreds of decisions a week together, and sometimes we don't agree. And that's made sometimes great art for us. Sometimes we go into the studio and we fight things out, and we have to go to the middle, and that ends up being exactly where we need it to be. So I lean into it. I think that you have to make the stuff you believe in, and you have to make stuff you really care about. And then there's also conflict and tension that comes from that.
I think it probably helps too that a significant focus in our work is not each other. Like we spent a lot of time talking about our work dynamic and our sibling relationship, but our most famous songs, like if I think of a song like Walking with a Ghost, like it has nothing to do with Tegan. It's like it's a weird thing where maybe actually the book and telling this origin story is one of the first times that we are essentially telling our story instead of a story that happened to each of us individually with someone outside of the band. So thus far, in terms of telling the story and how that translated both as a memoir and as a television show, there hasn't really been very much conflict between the two of us on the facts, like there's obviously little niggly things here, like where I'll be like, is that really what happened? But, there's nothing large that I'm like, Tegan, that is not the truth, or that is not what happened. So we've mostly been able to get along.
Well, I appreciate both of you doing this. Enjoy your music a lot, and was really happy to see how well the show came out. So thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Rick. Appreciate it.
Bye.